Hello, everybody. I am back for yet another movie review. And this time I'm going to review a movie that I have kept putting off for so long. For the longest time, did not want to watch it, but eventually I kind of was encouraged by a friend to eventually check it out. And since I've just reviewed Pi, I might as well review Darren Aronofsky's follow up film to Pi, and that is, of course, Requiem for a Dream. Requiem for a Dream is I guess you could call it a bit of a psychological thriller film that came out back in 2000 and stars an incredible cast of actors. Ellen Burstyn, Jared Leto, Jennifer Connelly, and Marlon Wayans. Kind of funny I'm seeing Marlon Wayans appear in a movie that's not a comedy at all, but nonetheless, though, pretty impressive. Requiem for a Dream was actually based on a novel by an author named Hubert Selby Jr. Basically, the film is really about the lives of four individuals: a lonely widowed mother, played by Ellen Burstyn, her son, Harry, played by Jared Leto, Harry's girlfriend, Marion, played by Jennifer Connelly, and Harry's best friend, Tyrone, Marlon Wayans. The four characters are basically just struggling to find happiness in any way they can, and of course, Harry and Tyrone and Marion are all, of course, drug addicts. Marion, of course, ends up getting a phone call to appear on a TV show, and of course is struggling with the fact that she feels overweight, and she's desperately finding any way she can to, lose it. And so she is told by a friend to go to the hospital to receive some kind of, medication and drugs that will help her lose weight. But unfortunately, she ends up abusing it, and ultimately, it just turns their whole world completely upside down. The same with Harry, Marion, and Tyrone. Their constant use of heroin and drugs is what, basically, yeah, they have this whole great happy life set up, and of course, once the aftershocks of the drugs kick in, is when things take a sour turn. Things take a nosediving turn for the worst. Now, I really won't go into detail what the film is about, especially for people who have yet to discover this movie or have seen it yet, but I will tell you, though, it is not for the faint of heart. To watch these four people literally just they'll watch their lives just crumble to pieces, all because of their desperate search for that elusive drug that they are so obsessed with. Basically, all I gotta say about the film is that this movie is definitely not for the faint of heart. Now, the first half of the film is excellent because it kind of puts you in the right mood, the right setting, because we're introduced to the four characters, and they're like, well, they're drug addicts, but they're trying to do the best they can to live out their lives to the fullest. That is until their constant abuse of these drugs is what leads into the film's second half, and the second half of the movie is like watching an entirely different film. It literally goes straight into batshit insane central, is all I gotta say. And the other thing I gotta say is it's nothing short of gut-wrenching, to say the least. But nonetheless, though, Ellen Burstyn delivers an incredible performance in this movie. So amazing, in fact, that she actually snagged an Oscar nomination, Golden Globe nomination, a Saturn nomination, all for Best Actress in the leading role. And her performance in the film is definitely one of the most rewarding experiences of this movie. And at the same time, it's also one of the most difficult to watch. Because for anybody obviously seen her in The Exorcist, where she was the mother trying to save her young daughter being possessed by the demon Pazuzu, at one point in the movie, it almost looks like she is being possessed by the demon Pazuzu. That's, like I said, it's an incredible stretch on how far a performer will go to make their acting in the film be that realistic. Literally. Also, I think Darren Aronofsky definitely took lessons from Brian De Palma, because there's a lot of parts in the movie that go into like a split screen comparison, where there's like a split screen shot where there's like action taking place on one side of the screen, and there's action taking place on the other. But yet, at the same time, it manages to keep up with the continuity, which very impressive, I have to say. But as for the movie itself, it is very brilliantly made. Now, normally, I slowly am starting to become a bit of a, starting to show a bit more of appreciation for Darren Aronofsky. He's one filmmaker I never really got into at first because, as I've said this to myself many times, his films are a bit of an acquired taste. I'd have to be in like the right set of mind to watch a movie of his. And I was actually recommended by a friend to watch Requiem for a Dream, and I've been told by many things by various people that this film is a brilliant piece of work, that it's, a nightmarish incursion into the world of drug addiction, and it's one of the most it's one of the darkest, most disturbing, probably one of the most difficult films you'll ever see in your lifetime. And I'm sure there are movies way more hard to see. And a friend of mine actually said that after I watched Requiem for a Dream, I should watch Trainspotting. Well, I have seen Trainspotting. Great movie, by the way. And again, it's another film that goes into the world of drug addiction and heroin usage. And like Requiem for a Dream, it too has a lot of sequences in the film that are rather difficult to watch. Many of them. But in a way, these two are like entirely different movies in a way, but they do kind of they still fall under the same premise, except Trainspotting is about a man trying to get away from the heroin usage. Requiem for a Dream, on the other hand, does no such thing. It's literally showing us the aftershocks of what happens when you constantly abuse the drugs that you're stuck on. And that's why any recovering drug addict who has seen the film or has heard of the movie and has seen it, like I said, will find this movie rather terrifying to watch because this movie is a perfect visual analogy of what happens when you literally are a drug addict. And the film literally takes us on a psychological journey of exactly what happens. Many POV sequences, many shots in the film literally give you a visual look of what happens when you literally are a drug addict. And for anybody that is a recovering drug addict or anybody that has successfully kicked the habit, I commend you gratefully. And also, after watching this movie, it makes me glad to know that I'm personally not a drug addict myself, which I'm very thankful for. But I will say, like I said, this is a movie that's definitely not for anybody. I take that back. It is not for everybody at all. There are a few people that will appreciate the film for what it is, and there's going to be some people that'll walk away from it and think, what in God's name did I just watch? And as I've said, many people will walk away from this movie and think and say, I'm sure glad I'm not a drug addict. And many people that are recovering addicts will watch this movie and go, yeah, that's exactly what I went through. And like I said, I have to commend this movie very much for, what it does offer. The movie was obviously a bit of I wouldn't say it was a sleeper hit, but it was kind of, it did come out in 2000. It was made on a $4.5 to $5 million budget, and it grossed about somewhere between $6 to $7 million, or $7 to $8 million. So it was not a very profitable film. But once the home video release came out, that's where the film kind of blew up. Artisan Entertainment also released it on DVD, much like Pi. But thankfully, I have the Blu-ray here, which by Lionsgate, I believe, which is a pretty stellar release of the film. And as I've said, the movie did receive critical praise. I'll get to the Blu-ray here in a second, but the movie did receive critical praise. Currently, it's got a 79 on Rotten Tomatoes, but honestly, though, one of the things that really makes this film come to life is definitely Ellen Burstyn's performance. Just like I said, her change of character from being a concerned housewife, being a concerned mother, to just watching her go into a drug addicted monster is just, like I said, it's gut wrenching to say the least. Just like the other characters. Like I said, the first half of the movie, you enjoy these characters thoroughly. You kind of enjoy them. It's building up to them, and then the second half of the film, when the aftershocks hit, like I said, I feel like you're watching an entirely different movie. Which, I really have to give this film the benefit of the doubt for. But anyway, let's talk about the Blu-ray. Honestly, Lionsgate's Blu-ray release of the film is actually a pretty solid release. So anyway, here's the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray does present the director's cut of the film, which I believe also the DVD offered too. So, the video quality on the disc is presented in 185 by 1, I believe, and it looks fantastic in high def. A lot of detail, a lot of great stuff. So, really not much to complain here. There are a couple of soft spots in the movie, but, given what Lionsgate is capable of, a lot of their titles actually look really good on Blu-ray, and there are some that, could be better. I would say out of 5 stars, the video on Requiem for a Dream, I would say 4. Bordering on 4.5. As for the audio is presented in 7.1 DTS, and honestly, this is actually quite a... You actually will hear every sound, every piece of dialogue, all the sound effects, the characters' reactions to the drugs, everything. This movie literally is stacked with incredible audio. I would say out of 5 stars, the audio gets a 4.5. As for the extras, well, believe it or not, we actually do have a nice supplemental package here to look at. 2 audio commentaries are the headlights, one with Darren Aronofsky, and the other is with the DP, Matthew Libatique. Sorry if I pronounce his name wrong, but yeah. They both talk about the film. Darren Aronofsky obviously talks about the story the film is based on, coming up with the concepts. Matthew talks about, obviously filming the movie the way it was done, with all the camera angles, the split screen effects, obviously going the Brian De Palma route. He goes deep into detail about, working with Darren Aronofsky and getting into his, digging into the guy's mind and, showing us what Darren really wanted to see on the screen. There's a making of documentary. It's a comprehensive look at the making of the film. Interviews with just about everybody that worked on the movie. Deleted scenes with optional director commentary. Memories, Dreams, and Addictions. Ellen Burstyn. It's obviously a brand new interview with Ellen Burstyn. Her looking back on Requiem for a Dream. Interviews with Hubert Selby Jr., the author of the book. Theatrical trailers and TV spots. So honestly, this is actually a pretty well put together supplemental package. I would say out of 4 stars, I'd have to give it a 4 out of 5. The extras are fantastic. So, all in all, this is a pretty well put together Blu-ray release for the movie. Video is well done, the audio is amazing, and the extras are plentiful, so anybody that's actually looking forward to picking this movie up, it's definitely worth a watch. At least for a one-time viewing, but as I've said, this movie is not for the faint of heart, and it's not going to be for everybody. But for those of you that are bold enough to check this movie out, I'd say give it a watch. Yeah, like I said, the first half of the movie is like I said, it's definitely got a kinetic feel. But the second half, like I said, you've really no idea what you're in. For those of you that have yet to experience this movie, all I gotta say is you have absolutely no idea what you're in for before you see this movie. But is it worth watching? Absolutely. But as I've said, it's not for everybody. It is not for the faint of heart. And for those of you that are thinking of getting into drugs, watch this movie and it might give you a second opinion about doing them. But as for any recovering drug addict, I commend you for kicking it. And like I said, this movie, the best way to describe it, it's a perfect visual analogy of what happens when you abuse drugs. Literally. So, all in all, I definitely recommend this movie. And also, try going for a day. After watching the movie and listening to the main theme, try going a day without humming it in your head. It is one theme that will literally stick in your mind for quite a long time. If anybody has seen the movie or knows the movie in and out, you know the theme I'm talking about. It's that eerie violin theme that was, the film was scored by Clint Mansell, who actually worked with Darren Aronofsky on Pi, and Kronos Quartet, the string quartets, which worked with Clint Mansell for the music. Like I said, it's an eerie theme that will haunt you for a long time. So, But as I've said, as for the movie itself, I recommend it. If you can handle it, that is. So, this concludes the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will continue to do more videos in the days to come. So until then, take care and be safe.